My name is Kamran.
Thank you. I mean, do you want to start by just saying like a little bit about where you come from? Like what
Yeah,
is
for
your family?
sure. Yeah. So, yeah, I born in Iran in 1981, which is like 2 years after revolution.
Mhm.
And it's a year after the war started in Iran. And I do believe, or I do like to believe that my soul wanted to come in this time of crisis because there was something that I had to experience.
Mhm.
And I grew up in the war. I experienced the bombs everywhere. And then I moved to Greece when I was 2, 3 years old for a few years. And then we come back to Iran around 7, 8. And I was there till I was 29 or something. And then I moved to Europe and I started living in Amsterdam and based in Europe and living. And actually, the good thing is the topic that we are talking about, like what I feel like. Basically, till I was 30 years old, I didn't feel anything because Iran is quite like a closed container. Everybody is from Iran.
Uh-huh.
So we don't really let foreigners come to our country because we don't give them a quite some easy visa, and people think it's really scary to come there. And but what I wanted to say, like, I never knew like such a thing exists, that we are different than the others.
Wow.
And for me, it's quite a new thing because I'm just 40 years old. So the last 10 years, I started to experience this.
Wow, what an experience then.
Yeah. And when I came to Europe, I didn't know that such a thing exists. So I didn't understood really many things, and I took it differently till I realized actually, oh wow, there is such a thing exists. Because I also don't consider myself as a person in color because I don't have a black skin. So I didn't know that I am a person in color and I'm not safe to be around. And I'm like profiled differently, and I didn't know all of that. And yeah, so it was a quite interesting journey the last 10 years to really experience that. And my soul always wanted a freedom, and that is the reason that I come out of Iran, because I didn't feel the freedom. So I come to the place to experience freedom, and I can express myself in a way that I can. And I felt like I have so much gifts that they are not coming out. So I was like, okay, I have to go somewhere that I can do these things. And I'm not a tree to stay here. So I can move.
Mhm.
I moved, and that movement, which was really beautiful and also painful in the same time, till it got me actually to depression. And after that depression, I could start to flowering again.
And the depression, was that when you started like really tapping into the feeling, like being like you're saying you didn't have to feel a lot before then? Was it like tapping into this?
Yeah, I think like depression has many layers in it.
Mhm.
And one of the layers was to really understanding that I am in the place that is not my home anymore.
Yeah.
And that's one of the different layers, but there was really different layers that was coming with it. And it was, of course, a little bit of the background that I grew up in a war, and I grew up in this limited place and a lot of things. But one of the layer was this as well.
Mhm.
And the more I live here in Europe, the more I feel like that layer is getting expressive and expressive because I feel it more and more.
Mhm.
And I was just telling Leonie today about one of my experiences, which is it's beautiful. And also, like, I don't like to be in this position. Like, I was in a club that normally people in color don't go to that club, and I was partying in that club, and I was really happy, enjoying myself. And there was a guy came to me and was like, hey, where you come from? I was like, what do you mean where I come from? Doesn't matter really. And he was like, I'm the owner of this place. I was like, okay, let's dance. And he was like, no, where you come from? I want to help you. I was like, I don't need help. And yeah, what was really interesting, the whole evening he was following me and he wanted to ask me where I come from and he wanted to help me. But
Uh-huh.
actually, I didn't need help. I just came there to party.
Uh-huh.
And I found that a little bit patronizing, like in a way, like people people wanted to give you something because you are different, but actually I don't feel like we are different. And
Mm-hmm.
then I have to feel that we are different. And that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel right to my body. And
Yeah, being
it's
made
just
another.
like, hmm?
Being made an other.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that projection that I have to receive because they feel that I'm different. And later I actually started feeling different.
You got introduced to feeling different. You got introduced to otherness, and then yeah, having to take it on because you kind of swim in it here.
Yeah, because this is the place that I should be, and that's not my place. And I
Uh-huh.
was taking other place somehow.
Yeah. And when did you start getting involved in like, like spiritual communities, like or sexuality communities here? Like how long have you been involved in that?
It's a really good question. So spiritual community with the hippies, I would say from the beginning that I came to Europe
Mm-hmm.
because I was kind of a party person and I hang out with the people that they were thinking different
Mm-hmm.
and we were in an open relationship and everything. But basically, starting Tantra started like 2016, 17, and with Osho, and really like tapping into more of understanding what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was kind of like 5, 6 years ago, more or less.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like, if we want to talk more about Easter Hidden Temple, is just for me started the last November, which was in Costa Rica, and we journeyed together.
Mm-hmm. With the 10-day that we were both at. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my very first time that I was coming to the container that is differently approached, let's
Uh-huh.
say.
And how's your experience been in that container?
Yeah, there is like, I'm still processing that journey, or I'm still in this my English is also not good, in this soul pilgrimage that I feeling like what happened there for me. And there was many aspects on it, but one of the aspects that I would like to share with you, it was like experience that I had there with this woman that I was fancying her, and for a week we couldn't talk. And then after a week I was like, would you like to have a short conversation? And she was like, yeah, I do like to have a conversation with you. And the very first thing that she brought to me was like, she told me that she has a problem to come to have a conversation with me because her parents were racist.
Mm-hmm.
And she see me as a person that she cannot come close because she's afraid, scared of me. And that really shook me. Like, I was like, whoa, okay. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to really reply to that. So I actually come from the place like, what can I offer you? Like, what can I do? And later I started realizing it actually is like it feeling really like not safe what she told me.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful that she brought it up because it's not like something that she wanted to tell me, because I think she was really brave that she brought it up.
Yeah.
And it felt really like, oh my God, for a week, I didn't know what is happening, but she was truly experienced that she couldn't trust me. She couldn't come close to me. She couldn't have a conversation with me. And it's all because I look different.
Mm-hmm.
And all other people that they were not, because I think like, if I'm not wrong, I was the only person in color there. And then because I look different, I'm just different with the all other men and women that they are there.
Yeah.
And I was
Partly
like
one too.
taking this really gracefully in the same time, because I was like, okay, you experience something that is different and I honor your experience. And And I went to my loneliness and really feel into it. And then the day after, I was full of rage and I didn't know what was happening. And I wanted to really share this with the others. And I'm feeling alone, like, guys, girls, like, what is happening here? Are we the same or not? And then sharing that in a group with everybody else. And what really broke me down was like, somebody told me that they are really sorry for me, for what I've been through. I was like, no. This is not my experience. This is our experience. And you're living it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, since then, I'm more aware and I'm more like looking around, like what is happening around me. And I'm also aware for others, brothers and sisters, that they come in the container, if they do feel safe or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard being the only one, because it's like you have to carry this mantle that you're like, I don't want to be representative of this thing. You know, I'm me. I want to be me here, but somehow I can't shake being the representative of an entire, you know, whatever body of people, and the suffering that's come on them. And it's like, yeah, we need to talk about these things, but not as a like, oh, here, I'm going to do something for you, because that, it's like fucked. We're already fucked in that system. It like, there's separation that happens innately when we're like the savior complex, you know.
Yeah.
Like, let me help you. It's like, how about you help yourself first? Like, how about you deconstruct the shit in yourself, and then maybe when you show up fully like aware of suffering, then like let's just meet there. Let's just meet in this place, rather than, yeah, having to take on something and become the voice or the representation of like how. And I feel like that, I feel it in myself, and I know I've done it, where I feel like, oh, like I want this person to hold all the shit, so I don't have to like look deep inside me.
Yeah.
And dismantle it. And then I felt it as I come into groups at times when I'm the only like whatever queer person, which happens kind of often in these containers. And it's like there's this thing, and I'm like, I don't want to represent the whole of this thing. And I you know, like, why can't this part of me just be here and not be a thing? Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a thing. Like, I don't like to be a thing.
Nobody likes to be a thing.
No. Like, if I could just change my face and come to the containers as a different person, I would do that. Because I don't want to carry anything and say, hey, I'm this and I'm that and I'm a victim, or I really don't want any of this. And like, I don't want to be patronized. I don't want to tell people, hey, let's have a conversation around this. But we have to. I feel like we have to, because I feel like there is this bigger picture that we are ignoring this part because we don't want to see what is happening, because there is this invisible power that don't want to be acknowledged. And that invisible power, the only way that it can get equal is like acknowledging it. If somebody tell me I'm not racist, I'm actually really, really keen about that. And if somebody is open to talk with me and say, hey, this is the problem with the race, because we know what was the problem with patriarchy, and we talk about it so much and so much and so much and so much, and we got a little bit further. It's not done yet, but we got a little bit further. And with the race, how we can get further is like, there is many ways. And I feel like the most peaceful way is like just communication, just talk about it, conversations, and let's everybody come talk about it. And they come and say like, how did they feel? I had a conversation with a friend who lives in Berlin just a few days ago. And I was like, how do you feel about racism? And he said like, I'm actually feeling really great that I am white and privileged. And he was honest about it. And I was actually like, I can take that better than if you would tell me like, I'm not racist. We are friends. And we are really good friends. We know each other for 8 years and we hang out all the time together. And he but that acknowledgement, it really made a lot of peace in me.
Yeah, that safety that we can be honest and vulnerable with one another, and like there's shitty parts of me I don't like to acknowledge, and I'm putting them on the table as well, instead of like, yeah. I think especially in spiritual communities, sometimes we have this idealism and this intention of being beyond these things. And the reality is they're so embedded that even with the people with the best intentions, if you are not actually dismantling these systems inside of yourself, you are supporting them. And when you're around other people who are harmed by supporting that system, but you can't see it, like that's when the harm gets done. That's when the really painful things that like keep our communities really isolated from one another.
Yeah. And I think like, I don't know like how am I to say, but I feel if I want to be a part of community, one of the values is like, how do we address this?
Yeah.
And how do we talk about this?
Yeah.
And not ignoring it, because as soon as people say, hey, this is not an issue, I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, it's like someone saying I'm not racist. Like we are all inherently racist or biased in some form, you know, whether it's sexism, ageism, you know, homophobia, whatever it is, you know, we all have these things that we're all, and it's like, if we can meet there, if we can meet in the places we're like, oh, look, I'm fucked up in this way. And we can meet, you know, it's like, that's how we stop doing the harm to one another, is like meeting in the vulnerability.
Yeah, and I also have a lot of places that I feel vulnerable and I can share that. And if I don't feel safe, I cannot share that. If I feel patronized, I cannot share that. And if I cannot share that, that part of us that's not going to be healed because part of us not feeling safe to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like there is a question always for me also, like, for example, in Ista and Hayden Temple, like most of the facilitators are white,
yeah.
and either from US or England or New Zealand or Israel.
There's, yeah, some Western country, very Western.
Yeah. And why is that?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other question that it comes to me, how many people from other colors would like to participate in this? And why they are not participating? And then if this community grows, like, let's say get 100,000 people, and if 100,000 people all from these countries or from the Western countries, are we good?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we include those people?
Yeah.
And there is another question, because also like it comes to me like sometimes they say like we actually include, yeah, because we have like a favorite minority, like indigenous people are really welcome. But I'm not sure if you are from that country or if you look like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're from this country, you're super welcome. Like these favorite minorities and not favorite minorities. Also like that is also kind of like, how do we look at this?
Mm-hmm. And if we're not, if I think if these places that we go to don't have an open policy that we are actually addressing these things, people who are marginalized in any way don't actually feel safe coming to it, because they're like, oh, these people don't know, they don't know what they don't know, you know. Whereas if you have an ability to like some system set up so that these things get talked about and dismantled in some sense, it's like, oh, they're doing the work and maybe they're going to be messy and maybe it's not going to be perfect, but I can show up because we can all be in our work together.
Yeah. Somehow giving that a space, like, you know, like just 2 weeks ago, I had a conversation with another dear friend, and then they told me, hey, we are really proud of you. You're working on your sexuality. And we had really deep conversation for hours and hours, and they're a couple. And then the lady comes from one of the Middle East country, and I told and she is actually really traumatized sexually, and we could have this open conversation. And I just said like, maybe Easter, and she was like, no. I was like, why no? And she was like, I'm not coming to the place that somebody in a white skin gonna judge me for what I've been through. And in a sense, I started to feel a little bit contracted because I know that she can heal. And the other way, I was like, I feel your sister. You don't feel safe. And that comes from the history, and that comes through the generation, and that comes through this. And you know, like, it's almost feeling like, imagine that in a certain area we kill foxes.
Yeah.
And then we decide to not kill foxes and become friends with them. And if we tell foxes, hey, we don't kill foxes anymore, they're not coming and say, hey, okay, we trust you.
Now we trust you. Okay, we hear your words. Yeah.
There is like this instinct inside, like not feeling safe. And yeah, for me personally, I feel it so much. Like I'm actually like feeling like going to every single container and really being alert what is happening around me. And I feel like the last 5 containers that I've been in, 3 of them, I just come in the middle of the circle and I said like, racism is something that we have to address.
Yeah. How was it received?
I think like from brothers and sisters from the color, they come to me and they were like, thank you, because they heard, they felt that they've been seen. And others, they were not really impressed or something. It's just like, okay, somebody said something.
Yeah, I'm having this experience since I've been delving into this more, and I've been a little more vocal about this, that there's this sense of it's like this foreboding or this real sense of separation when you start to talk about this stuff. And it's almost like this, like, don't open that Pandora's box. And then there's this sense of like distancing. Like I've had several people who I've opened conversations with who then wouldn't have a personal conversation with me for like weeks and weeks afterwards. It was almost like, if we're gonna go there, I can't. Like I can't open this Pandora's box. And it's like, I don't think they're even conscious that that's going on, but I feel this part in me where it's like, oh, I just became the problem. You know, that moment when you're like, if I lose my shit right now, will I just be dismissed?
Yeah.
Will everything that comes out of my mouth at this moment just be chalked up to being overly emotional or projecting something onto someone else? And it's so deeply painful because it makes you have to be like to be, I silence myself in those situations. I begin to start censoring myself because I'm like, oh shit, like I'm going to be kicked out or I'm going to be ostracized if I make too many people uncomfortable. And like I'm to the point now where I'm like, fuck it, I don't care how many people I have to make uncomfortable. Like if this group of people can't handle it, then I don't want to be with this group of people.
Exactly. I feel you in that. I feel you really in that. And for me, it was like, I totally hear you, and I know like what you're saying. And I felt like for a couple of times, like maybe this is my shit.
Yeah.
And I felt like maybe I am projecting this on the others. Till I heard that like somebody will come and tell me, hey, I'm actually cannot sit with you because my family is racist. Till I had like a exercise with somebody and they told me like, hey, you cannot come this close to me. And I was like, why? And they couldn't explain. And I could sense that in my chest.
Yeah, people who have had this experience, we feel it in our bones. And even if you can't articulate it, like we know what the fuck's going on.
I can feel it now. It's really like I'm saying I'm really alert. I'm moving around and I feel it. And I had this experience that I don't want to tell people because I feel like this is something that I bring to them and this is not theirs. And we have to work on something more important because this is not as important. And no, I don't feel this is not as important because I feel like everything is important and nothing is important in the same time.
We have to do the whole thing. Can't leave bits of the work behind. Like we have to do it all.
Yeah, it's almost like, okay, we don't have oil, so we're gonna cook without oil or without salt or without water.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're gonna do it all together. Yeah, it is something that I am really like, personally, I'm really grateful that you open up this conversation, but I am personally really going to this direction to really open it up because I feel like there is many brothers and sisters and colors that they feel ashamed, they feel minority, they don't feel safe to be in these containers. And I have many of them around me and I talk with them and they all tell me the same. If one person told me, I would say, okay, you don't feel safe. If two persons would have told me, I would say, okay, you feel that. But if 10 people tell me, is there something happening? And I feel like the only way is like to have the open conversation, to feel the equality, or to feel like if you come to the container to feel like, hey, it's actually mixed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know, like maybe somebody can think like, okay, we are doing it in Europe, so they're more European, but actually in Europe, like there is 30-40% people living are not European.
Yeah, the percentage coming to these containers, it doesn't show the distribution of race that are actually in all the countries that we're doing most of the work.
Exactly. And that is painful.
Mm-hmm.
And there should be a solution for that. And one of the solution is all of us going through it. And I personally devoted to go through that.
Yeah, me too. As much as I'm capable of doing it in my own fucked up way.
Yeah, we don't know what to do, so we start from anywhere. And you know, like there is part of me also didn't want to show up for this because I thought that some people are gonna look at this and they think like, oh, bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurts.
It really hurts.
And I was like, am I going to do this? And there is part of me that didn't want it to come here because felt like, why to bother others? I can deal with this.
Yeah, I know that part. It hurts.
And it hurts. And I want to see like, at least maybe in one generation, when everybody come to the container, nobody look at the others and say things like, oh, you look different.
Mm-hmm.
Or you feel different.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if you feel different, it's because there is something happening. It's not because you look different, then you feel different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was also thinking like, maybe we can have a retreat for the mixed people and then just let them touch each other's skin and feel what do they feel. Especially for the people that they think they are not racist.
A special retreat for people who aren't racist. I love it. And there is something about having numbers too. It's like if there are numbers of people who are representative of whatever it is, the way you feel marginalized, there's a safety and a relaxation, and that those spaces are actually really sacred. And like having autonomous zones where it's like, great, like let's have a place where, you know, all the women get to meet and they just get to talk about their experience. Let's have a place where all the people of color get to meet and they get to talk about their experience with one another, not with anyone, not with any gaze coming down on them. Like, I think those spaces are really important. And that's something that it feels like it's kind of taboo in these containers, because it's like, no, we're all one, we're all equal in this, which is true. Like I want that to be the case, but the only way it can really be the case is if we're not like, yeah, we can actually show up with these parts of ourselves and have them held and seen. And there's not the trust at this point to have those parts held and seen, except by other people who know what we're going through. And then when we get the strength, it's like, great, now we can like show up as all of this too. Like we can bring
Right.
all of this along, and it's not something that's like marginalized to others. We know if someone's got our back, we know in our bones that it's not just our problem, that we're supposed to like shoulder on our own and have enough, fortitude. Like a lot of people in these containers have very well resourced nervous systems. Like they've got the money, they've got the support of a whole system behind them that gives them a different experience, that they cannot relate when people come with kinds of trauma that they're not used to, like they don't have themselves. Like these containers are great for us on the traumas that we share, but on the ones that we don't know, it's like oh, that's maybe you have some father issues, or maybe like it's hard not to just feel marginalized when you're one of, you're the only one, or one of just one or two people of representative of something.
Yeah, it's so true. And for me personally, like my background is not like I don't come from a rich family, and I born and grew up in Iran. I've been really lucky, and I also worked a lot, not really physically, but I've worked a lot, and I have quite some money, so I can just support myself, and the universe has been always on back of me. There's no family to support me besides the universe. So I could show up in these places. And for me personally, when I talk with the people around me and I just ask them, it's almost like nobody, I don't know, nobody is big worth. Maybe really a small percentage that I can resonate with the background with them. And it is also like, it's not difficult, but it's not easy. And the other thing that I was thinking about is like, maybe a part of the solution can be like having a container just for the people in color and for free. And then people who are able to pay for them, and we're gonna get like people from Syria, we get people from Palestine, we got people from Chile, we got people from Brazil, we got people from all around the world, but in different, that they are not in white collar, and then they cannot afford it, and then put them in a lottery, and the lottery decide which soul is gonna come in and go to the container and say like, what does it come from there?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And yeah, pulling out the economic part too, which is also a big divide.
Because like, let's say 1,000 euro, 2,000 euro is really not a big money, and for the person who comes from Iran or who comes from Brazil is 1 year life.
Yeah,
And
it's huge.
yeah, it's a huge investment for them, and that is just the container. Traveling, coming, going, that is another 1,000 euro or 500 euro or whatever.
And the emotional toil too of crossing borders. I've spoken with a few of my friends who are just like, that's a huge obstacle for me. Crossing European or American borders it's there's a lot of emotional toil that comes with it, as well as the financial, like people who have been turned away at the border, or who have been deported from places because of the color of their skin. And that's something I think a lot of like the organizers don't necessarily take into account sometimes.
I totally understand that. I still have that. I have a European passport, but I still, when I travel, I have that difference on the borders as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, but I have friends, I've heard of it, and I'm like, oh, like this is an experience I don't personally have, and this is part of my privilege. And I'm like, yeah, like hearing the heartbreaking stories, that I'm like, fuck, like I have never had to think of that, like.
Yeah, literally sometimes I've been asked to show them my bank account if I have enough money in my bank account that I'm entering like some random country.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
have I ever been asked that question? No.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have enough in my bank account, but just like
It's
why you're asking.
demeaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm used to it, so I'm just like, take it as a practical part of my life. And
Mm-hmm.
it is not just practical, it's really emotional. It's just like stamping in my head. Like,
Yeah, the huge amount of emotional labor that goes into certain things that other people just don't have to think about. Yeah. Yeah, I like some of my Black friends here in the States, and they're like, if I get pulled over, I don't know if I'm gonna live through that. And I'm like,
yeah,
fuck. Like having that extra emotion, like, fuck.
yeah, that
It's
is so true.
mm,
I do experience that more in Germany for myself because it's more sensitive here. I live in
mhm.
Netherlands and it's less sensitive there, but in Germany it's more sensitive. Been stopped so many times by car.
Yeah, in Germany. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's all the little things in life that make a huge difference in our day-to-day experience, and the emotional toil that that we're all carrying is different because of
yeah,
the little things.
yeah. You just if nobody asked me something or nobody stopped me or doing something, I don't have to deal with anything. Just living my life. But imagine that you're walking and everybody is poking you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all day. Like, why are you poking me?
Mm-hmm. And it's like you can get by, and you do, and you have to, but
Yeah,
it doesn't mean it doesn't have a toll, and it doesn't mean that there's not stuff that needs to be unwound because of that. But also, like, what needs to be unwound around here? It's not just your problem; it's all of our problem.
it's a part of the bigger problem that we
Yeah.
are experiencing, all of us. And yeah, I do really like to tackle that. And maybe it's starting from the conscious communities or somewhere else, but this is something really big happening. Like, we need to change this,
Mm-hmm.
in my personal perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mine too. I'm with
Yeah.
you on it.
I'm just looking because I wrote some note that, yeah, there is just one question that I do have, like, I want to really, like, if somebody gonna watch this video, like, I would like to ask them. That question is like, what have I done around racism? Have I been in any workshop? How
Mm-hmm.
do I know if I'm racist or not?
Mm-hmm.
What have I done for it? If I done any workshop around it, if I read any book about it, if I watch any TV program around it, what have I done?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really like basic
Mm-hmm.
to understand where am I.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a good starting point.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it has to be integral to what we're doing, and not doing it from the savior point of view, not doing it because I need to do it for you, but doing it because I need to fucking do it for me. And I'm constantly surprised at all the places that I'm like, oh shit, here's another bias coming out. Fuck, like I haven't looked at this one, and it's surprising sometimes. And it's whenever I feel really like, if someone calls me on something and I get super uncomfortable and defensive, now, like, it used to be my first reaction was like, okay, kind of pull away and like, no, that's not what I mean. And like actually dismantling that, and I can't say I do this all the time, but coming to the practice of like, what am I not seeing? What experience has happened that I don't have, that I'm not understanding in this situation? Like, how can I look at this through the lens of what this person's trying to tell me, rather than like, oh, you're projecting that on me? And maybe they are projecting it, but like always stepping into that place first of, if someone is actually calling me on something, it's a it's fucking hard work. It is so much hard work to show up in a way that you can say, listen, something you did, I feel like is causing harm. It's so much fucking work. Like, people just don't arbitrarily do that, like, or,
Exactly.
if they do, it's such a small percentage. Like, how much can we, when someone says those things, actually like say, oh wait, let me take pause and do my education, and then go teach myself, and don't have that person tell me what I did, but go look it up, go find videos, go read articles, go find the books, and educate yourself, and don't rely on the people who are around you who may be part of that, you know, marginalized community to support you, hold you in your emotional pain, or educate you. You know, it's like we have to educate ourselves and not put that responsibility on somebody else.
Exactly. And for me, like personally, part of understanding what racism is and what does that mean, it was like I studied that to learn about it, because I was experiencing something that I didn't know what it is. Because I started to experience this really late and I didn't know what is happening. I was like, there is something weird happening and I don't understand it.
Yeah, what a unique perspective too. I mean,
And you know, like I feel like I understand a lot of things. I feel like I know shit. And then I was like in a place that I didn't want it to be a victim, because I know what his victim mentality is. But I felt something that I don't know what it is. What shall I do? And I was talking with everybody and then reading books and everything. And I just realized, oh shit, this is big. And I'm experiencing it. And I personally would think if I was on the other side of this game, I would do that again. I would read book about it. I would really like research. What does that mean? Because I do feel like what does that mean also to be a privilege, to be feeling that, because it's actually a really nice feeling. Just having this invisible power and nobody gonna ask you or do something if you're just having it. Because of no reason. It's not bad. And you can just make a joke out of them and they say, it's your problem, it's your responsibility to deal with it.
yeah. Yeah.
You don't say I'm a really good person, I do all my work, and yeah, that's your problem.
Yeah, and it's a lot of emotional, like it's a big load to take on when you're trying to hold it as your own problem. You know, when it becomes, when you're like showing up as someone who's marginalized in some community, and you get all this reflection like, oh, you haven't done enough work. Like, why are you still complaining about this? What's the you know, like these things that come on, and it's, yeah, it feels icky and it feels uncontrollable, and you're like, I don't care how much fucking work I do, I can't be responsible for the fucking patriarchy, you know, like, not on my own. Like, yeah, sure, I've got daddy issues, so
Yeah.
does the whole fucking Western world, you know.
Yeah, I heard that also, like in another place somebody told me I cannot be your daddy, and I was like, I'm not asking for a daddy. I'm actually telling you something that is something that is opening up from your side. Let's talk about that. Yeah, it feels itchy, as you said. It feels really difficult for me to talk about it. I guess like it's feel difficult. I felt it really the whole day on my chest, and sometimes it's more happening inside me, it's more cooking inside me unless I can talk about it. And I know that also. It's kind of like, I don't know why, but I'm still censoring myself. I don't want to say everything.
Yeah. The conversation we were having before I turned record on, and then when we're having after, it's very different. And I get it. It's hard. It's really, it's not an easy place to be. And I so appreciate you like stepping into this and showing up. And you know, one of the things I really admire and appreciate about you is just how your heart does not stop loving, even in the midst of all the chaos and all the places that you can feel taken out. Like, I've experienced you as always showing up as radiant love. Like, no matter what, even when you were raging in the middle of a circle, it's like raging with radiant love. And that takes so much effort in this world. And I feel it here. And I really, really want to just appreciate and how difficult this is. And also, yeah, how much I feel like I benefit from it. And thank you for doing this work, because I benefit. I benefit from you doing this.
You're welcome. And in the same time, I would like to say, like, I'm actually really done to do this job more often and go deeper into it. Don't know, start a retreat, whatever needs to be done to really go deeper into this and see, like, explore what is happening and to see what is coming up and how we can heal this, because this is a big pain. And at least it's in my belly. Maybe it's other people's also.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you that you're seeing this and coming with it and finding a way to address it. And I know it's difficult and it's going to be criticized and it's going to be like, oh, that part is not nice, or this part is nice, or this is not real, this is real, or whatever that it comes. But this is all we can do. Like, I don't know, like, what you want to hear or what you don't want to hear, but this is what is coming out.
And it's going to keep coming out from all areas. I feel like it's not just here, it's like it's coming up everywhere I look right now. Like these places that we swept under the rug, like they can't be there anymore with the change that's coming. This has to be the forefront. You know, every little thing, every fine minute detail that upholds older systems has to be dismantled. You know, who washes the fucking dishes, like who scrubs the toilet, as well as, you know, all the other things. It's like, yeah, all of this matters.
Yeah, everything matters. Every single small things that exist matters.
Well, this feels like a good place to wrap up. And
yeah, nice. I was thinking the same, actually.
Yeah, it feels like we've done a lot.
Yeah, I feel
that was
quite tired.
A lot moved.